Hey everybody, Alexander Diaz with Corvallis Acupuncture and Functional Medicine. This video is about the gut microbiome. So, science is discovering how crucially important the wellness of our good bacterium within our digestive and in other parts of our body is for our health. It seems like even more important than human health is the health of a combined ecosystem that occurs within and amongst humanity. And so, unfortunately, human health today is suffering greatly from a depletion of our gut flora. And this video is designed to help people to heal their and their families and their patients' gut microbiota. Um, so, the gut is like the ecosystem of our body, on our skin and in our eyes and ears and in our orifices and in the gut. It's our ecosystem. So just as the planetary ecology of planet Earth is hurting, human ecology is hurting. And unfortunately, not only does our physical health get impacted when our bacterium are not thriving, but actually our consciousness is impacted because most of the neurotransmitters and the good feeling chemicals, such as serotonin, that go to the brain, they're actually made in the gut. So when the gut is not well, states of chronic depression can happen. And you can hear more about that in my chronic depression videos. So the first and most important way to safeguard the health of your gut flora is to make changes in your mindfulness and to decrease your stress. And that means decreasing actual stresses and also decreasing perceptive stresses in terms of how you think about the world. And so some of my other videos speak more to that. Suffice it to say, work on that constantly. We're constantly shifting our mind. We're constantly trying to balance our heart and our feelings. And to that extent, you should check out my video on consciousness changing. So another big issue is that most of us, like myself included, have been given tens or even hundreds of doses of antibiotics. So I had tons of ear infections as a kid, mostly due to secondhand smoke. And I was given hundreds of doses of that bubblegum flavored antibiotic. And this destroyed my gut flora, which then led to skin issues and chronic fatigue and digestive issues and challenges getting enough nutrition, and also led to consciousness issues for me, which I'm working very hard to heal. This is the case for many people. And so the question is, we get these diseases that are really dangerous, these infections, these illnesses, and how do we treat without antibiotics? If you go into the doctor's office, you'll often be given antibiotics right away without even necessarily getting the disease specifically cultured or diagnosed in a laboratory setting. They'll often give the antibiotics just ad hoc in a shotgun approach. And these are devastating to human health. So they might save you in the short term, but they really hurt you in the long term, especially when used frequently. So the real question becomes, how do we actually treat disease without using antibiotics? And one of the things we have access to is herbal medicine, some of which can be extremely effective. Like I've treated a lot of staph and strep infections with herbs, or with herbs in conjunction with low-dose antibiotics to increase their effectiveness. And I've had a great degree of success. But another way is by staying healthy and promoting our wellness so that we don't get sick. The primary reason that we get illnesses like invasion illnesses that we would want to use potentially antibiotics for is because our bodies and our immune systems are exhausted. So by living according to the Tao, by living according to the Ayus and the Veda, the magic of living in daily life, we can actually prevent disease. And I'm available for video conferencing to help craft a lifestyle that's going to keep you and your family disease-free and with stronger and more resilient immune systems. But also, as you heal your body's probiotic ecosystem, you will gain more resilience against diseases, and I can speak to that from a personal experience. So another huge issue is gut inflammation. So when the gut is inflamed through various different pathologies, it makes it a lot tougher for our good bacteria to thrive. So just as when we are stressed out, it sends stress hormones and biomarkers and chemicals that damage our bacteria. Also, when we're inflamed, that really hurts the ability for the good creatures to sort of colonize and inhabit the whole of that ecosystem within the gut. And so the causes of inflammation are many. One of them is overwork. One of them is lack of sleep. Another really important one is pollution, including wireless frequencies and microwave radiation. There is a really great video coming out soon about overall reduction in inflammation. And to some extent, inflammation is the greatest cause of disease. So as you work on curing your inflammation within your gut, it'll really give a chance for your good bacterium to thrive. But one of the things that is the primary cause for inflammation for a lot of people is toxic food and toxic water. And so the diet video talks about that a lot, but I recommend really reducing your intake of packaged food, particularly pertaining to industrial agriculture products, soy and corn and wheat, things like that. And also really looking out for your meat and milk products. Because quite honestly, most of these animals that are raised in an industrial setting, they get antibiotics all the time because they're packed in so close to one another that diseases run rampant. So they just kind of shotgun give them antibiotics to these animals. And that goes right into the human body, which then kills the good bacterium in our gut constantly as almost like a daily dietary input. And in terms of water, I filter my water, and I also use an alkaline machine. It's really important to get clean water and to make sure you're filtering. So we want to recolonize. We want to benefit and create a thriving ecosystem inside of our body. And how could you create a thriving ecosystem from a denuded and desertified and destroyed ecosystem or an industrial, lot? How could you then get it to thrive? Well, first, you got to clean up the bad things that are living there, the toxins and the chemicals. And in a lot of cases for human beings, this also includes yeasts and fungi, which are growing inside the gut in lieu of the good bacterium. So if you ever receive a series of colonics, the first few colonics move out fecal material, basic bowel material or poop. But then subsequent colonics start removing these hard yeast plugs, which are actually occupying the surface of the endothelial tissue of the large intestine, making it impossible for the good bacterium to thrive in that zone, in that portion of your forest. And so there's sort of physical cleansing, which I recommend if you haven't had leaky gut, if you haven't had bowel surgery of any kind, it's generally safe to get colonic hydrotherapy, but specifically gravity fed, because the one that uses force pressure, that's too much for people. So when you're getting colonics, you got to search around and you got to find a practitioner who's using a gravity fed colonic and has a specific colonic hydrotherapy table, not just a massage table, but a specific table that's kept clean, and it should be a clean and safe place for you. And also that hydrotherapist, they really need to be putting in a probiotic bacterial implant at the end of the colonic through your rectum, which they encourage you to hold on to as long as you can, because the colonic does remove good bacteria as well. But a series of colonics is a wonderful thing as long as your gut is not physically compromised to the extent that it could hurt you. Another thing is that every person who's trying to recolonize their gut should have a functional medicine workup. This includes a stool sample, a blood test, and a urine analysis. And so by getting these tests, we're kind of going to determine, is there chronic infections? Is there something going on with the elevated white blood cell count? What is the constitution of the stool? And what could be growing there? Are there parasites? Are there yeasts? Are there fungi? And if that's the case, You use biomedicine. You actually use pharmaceutical medicine safely under the auspices of a real doctor. And you got to get things like your liver enzymes tested to know if you'll be able to handle that pharmaceutical medicine. But it's worth it to do this type of not only physical cleansing, but chemical cleansing that removes the nasties from your body. And then immediately subsequent to that, you start the recolonization plan. And the plan, it goes as follows. The first thing is you decrease your stress. The second thing is you let go of the foods that are causing you inflammation and the foods that are causing antibiotics to enter your body. And then after that, you use the trifecta of healing foods. And that means you have to have a living probiotic food, such as a sauerkraut or a kimchi. I don't recommend jun and kombucha because they're too sugary for most people still, yeah? Then you have a complex starch, which has been boiled and then cooled and then boiled again. So cassava, sweet potato, plantain, yucca, things like that. These are excellent foods for human beings. They're very cheap. You get them at like the ethnic food store or in the ethnic section of your basic grocery store. You go to your Mexican neighborhood, they'll have them there. And then you get green vegetables, kale, collard greens, roughage. So the body needs a lot of roughage, and this is going to gradually cleanse out the waste material from your bowel, but also give the probiota a substrate on which to grow. Not only a food to feed them, which is the starch, but also a substrate to grow that passes slowly through the digestive tract, okay? Then I also recommend you get on a dose of the best probiotic. I found out about this one through the guru, Chris Kresser. This is seed. This is a seed probiotic. It comes inside this box, and they make this packaging is out of mushrooms. This is out of mycelium, so they're very health, environment conscious company. And this is a pill inside of a pill. So basically, most of the probiotics you take are either powder or a single pill, and the stomach destroys them. So very few of them make it into the gut. But what you do is you get this pill inside of a pill, and it delivers it into the lower GI tract. And I've had amazing results in terms of bowel function and regularity, but also in terms of energy and consciousness. On just about a month and a half of this is a formidable and excellent product. So Seed, SEED.com. They have a men's and a women's one. I really recommend them. And then other strategies to help improve your probiotic flora. One of the most important, exposing yourself to healthy ecosystems, to intact, functional forests and rivers. You go to these places, if you can, you walk barefoot, you breathe in the air. The air is permeated with spores and with airborne bacteria. You have the soil touching your skin. You get into it. You stay in these places for multiple days at a time. This is incredibly valuable. You could spend $10,000 to go to a retreat center and get juice and this and that, and do yoga, but you could spend $10,000 and do 20 camping trips. You could take your family on 20 camping trips. The camping is cheap, you just have food, and you get yourself out in the woods and you go swimming. This is really important for our health, yeah? Another really important part of the bacterium game is physical touch. So human beings are meant to, as long as we're healthy, we're meant to touch each other, skin-to-skin contact. And also to have intimate sharing with healthy people. So when we engage in intimacy with a new person, our two bacterial ecosystems combine and merge. Now, in some people's case, this can result in a urinary tract or other infection, and that's unfortunate. But generally, if you do it and you do hygiene and you urinate after and you clean your fingernails very carefully, you actually get a huge benefit. So having a healthy person or persons in your life to share intimately with is very beneficial for your bacterial wellness and therefore your consciousness. Another super important thing, you can't go back in time, but you can go forward, is vaginal births. So cesarean sections and also vaginal births in which the mother is getting drip antibiotics because they're worried about beta strep. which is actually a very, very, very low percentage of children get it. Um, the vaginal birth is perhaps the best overall thing because the baby goes through and gets the entire medicinal set of bacterium. So if you can do vaginal births, I really encourage it. Unfortunately, many obstetricians are thinking more about legality and getting into trouble and fulfilling the standards of their malpractice or of the hospital in which they work. Rather, they need to be thinking about human health and wellness. So if you can get a midwife, specifically a nurse midwife, who has good credentials and who hasn't lost babies and hasn't had brain damaged babies, then you can do it, and you can just have the hospital as your backup plan. But you can birth at home or in a birth center, and you have the vaginal birth, and you receive the care you need before, during, and after the birth. Then the baby will get the full panoply of bacterium. Another thing that's really getting great traction, it's not yet available in the United States too much, but you can get it in Europe and South America, is fecal transplants. So they basically find human beings who have like really thriving gut bacteria, and they take feces and they freeze them and they render it, inactive so that it doesn't hurt you, and then they culture it and put that directly into your gut. And apparently this is a wonderful thing. Now it's quite expensive. For Americans, it usually involves an airplane ride. I recommend do it, but do everything else first. Don't go in for these expensive super hacks until you've created the foundation of the wellness so that it can really so that it can really hold on and keep growing. The thing about helping your probiotic flora to thrive is it takes a long time. Realistically, a human being who is exposed to tons of antibiotics and who's really been hurt and compromised, in that one human's lifetime, they may not be able to fully get back to what the real vital primal human being has in terms of their gut ecosystem. And because the Earth is suffering, because our planetary ecosystem is suffering, it may be a lot more difficult for any of us to really achieve the full extent. But health and wellness is not just a single generation or a single lifetime. We're thinking 7 generations and onwards. So if we, as adults or as individuals now, 2019, are benefiting our flora, we're benefiting our consciousness, we're benefiting our health, we're empowering our financial freedom, and we're using that financial freedom to create abundance and create a land-based lifestyle for as many human beings as possible, particularly our families and loved ones, who we probably have the most influence in terms of their wellness through our generosity and love. And so we will recover a fair bit, but you keep it up, and then vaginally birth the children, who vaginally birth their children, who are living in a natural ecosystem, who are benefiting the soil. And so we can recover ourselves and our lineages and our communities, and we can recover the planet. And then just as we are taking the bacterial cultures from the most thriving human beings, and we are benefiting our own so that we ourselves have a thriving bacterium, we're also gathering soil samples and mycelium or mushroom samples and spores from the healthiest and most intact ecosystems left on the planet. And we're then bringing them to the lands that we have influence, that we walk in, that we own, that we control, that we steward and care for and respect. And we're then introducing and spreading those cultures. So the idea is to fill up and literally colonize, if we can let go of the evil connotations of that word, but literally colonize with vital well bacterium that lead to vital well consciousness, the entire Earth and all of humanity. And so feel free to get in touch. Appointments available online. And blessings, and pray for the Amazon. Thank you so much.